We have a fun little project planned for today. We're actually going to be creating a balloon-powered car. So I'm going to walk you through those steps. This is going to focus quite a bit on alignment once again. That's an important part of 3D designing, especially in TinkerCAD when we're using some shapes. Before we start, let's switch over to millimeters or metric. So we're going to go to settings. Let's change this from imperial to metric. And we're going to leave the snap scale to the scale to 1 to 1 millimeters. Once again, that's going to be what is on the grid. Every one of these squares is 1 millimeter. And we're going to leave the snap grid at 1 millimeter. And just to review, what that means is we have the snap grid set to 1, so every time that I were to move this, it's going to snap one block, whether I do it with my mouse or whether I do it with my arrow keys here. Okay, let me zoom back out. In fact, the very first shape that we're going to use is going to be a solid cube. So go ahead and drag one of those over. And we are going to resize this. This is going to be 20 tall, which it already is by default. And then we're going to do, it's going to be 80 long. So right down here, let's type in 80. Now we're going to trim some of this off with a hole later, and that's okay. So here is our base of our car. In fact, let's trim this off here. We're going to make it look almost like a little bit like a drag racing car or like an Indy car. So let's grab a triangle. Now this part's going to be very important that we get this done properly. When we rotate, especially in the previous ones, I found that sometimes we struggled with getting things lined up if we clicked on this and we drug this arrow one direction or another, because if we don't rotate it, in this case exactly 90 degrees, it's not going to work properly. So what we need to do here, if we're looking at it from this perspective, what we're going to do is we're going to put this triangle on overlap here, and it's going to cut off the front here. So we're going to have a little bit of a nose for our car. So rather than dragging it, I'm going to click on this, click on 0, and I honestly don't remember if this is 90 or negative 90, which one goes. So let's just do regular 90 first. 90. Okay, it is going to be regular 90, because now what we are going to do is we're going to rotate it this way. Let's see if this is also regular 90 or negative 90. Negative 90 would also be 270, since there's 360 degrees. Let's see here. Nope, that's not correct. Okay, so let's make this one, let's try 270. Bam. There we go. Or, like you said, it's negative 90. So we need to rotate it so it's facing like this. If you missed that step, go ahead, go back and do it again. If you rotate it already and it's made a mistake, just either hit undo or delete this shape and throw a new one on. Now what we need to do is we're going to take this current solid and we need to turn it into a hole, because like I said, we're going to cut off the front of this. So it's a solid, we have it selected, I click hole, and let's use our alignment tool. And we could drag it on there, right? But let's make sure it's perfectly where we want it. So by doing that, I'm going to highlight both. I'm going to use my align tool. Now watch what happens here. These are the same width. So this is, or if you want to look at it from this perspective, height. So when I align this in either direction, any direction, you see how all three of these are grayed out now. Because since it's the same width, it is aligned to each of the sides as well as perfectly centered. Same thing here. We're aligned in the center, top and bottom, since it is the same height on the z-axis. I, though, am going to select this one right here, and we're going to put a little nose on the front of this. And if you want to, I'm going to allow you a little bit of freedom here. So watch what I do here. If I cut this right now, and I'm going to ungroup it, so I'm going to have to hit Union Group, it cuts off the nose. And that's fine if you want that way. We're going to put some wheels here, but if you want this to be slanted a little bit more, I'll show you how to do that. We don't want to slant it too much. Slanting it too much means that we're not going to have holes to put our axles, or our nose will be out too far. So if you wanted to make it a little more slanted, what I can do is I want to make sure I'm selecting just that hole, just like that. And if I grab this middle square, not the top and the bottom, if I grab this middle one, the only direction I can drag this shape then is left to right. So if I want to make it come in a little more, if you want to follow with me, I'll make mine 32 millimeters. That works. You can make it a little longer, but again, keep in mind, we're going to put holes right here for the axles. I'm going to union group these to cut it, and there is the front of our balloon car. Next, we need some holes for our axles, for our wheels to go through. So let's drag a cylinder on. I'm going to increase the number of sides. Remember, increasing the number of sides just makes it more round and not flat shapes. And this hole, looking at my notes here, I'm going to make it 10.5 in both directions. So I can click here and I can type it. Or a little trick that we learned in a previous one is if I hold down the shift key and I wiggle, 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 and then I let go of the mouse and the shift key and I type in 10.5, it will resize both directions. However, it made it shorter. This width is 20, so we need to make this at least 20. It doesn't matter if it's beyond 20. Let's just make it 25. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so we have this here. Let's flip this so we can put it inside of our car base. So let's let's rotate it. I'm going to look at it from this perspective. So I want to rotate. I want to lay this on its side. I'll click here. 90 degrees. We'll lay that down. And that's the direction we want. But let's do some alignment once again. I'm going to highlight. I'm going to click the Align tool. And at first, I want to center it. Because centering it, what that means is it's going to use the center of this shape, and it's going to align it with the center of this shape. So we're going to have a little bit of an overhang on both sides. So let's go center here. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. You should be able to see that. See how our hole is sticking out both sides? That's fine. We can cut air. That's not a problem. Okay, but we want to put it in the bottom left corner. So let's go bottom, and we're going to hit left align. Okay, there we go. That's not going to quite work though. We need to move this a little bit, because if we print this here, it's going to shave off the very edge where this hole touches the bottom and the back side of our car here. So how we're going to fix this, let's look at it from this perspective here. I'm going to click on just the hole, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and I'm going to grab this arrow, and this is how we lift it up. 1, 2, 3. If you can't get it dialed in just right with your mouse, you can also just type it in here. That is where I want my hole. But I need to make another one over here, and I'm going to use this as my template. So let's click on our hole again, just the hole. Let's click on our duplicate button. Click, it'll flash. Now we have one new one selected. Before you click off of it, don't even try to drag it. Look at it from this perspective and just use your arrow key. And let's put this hole somewhere around anywhere between here, and we don't want to get too close to the front of the nose here. Okay, we don't want this to kind of cave in a little bit. So anywhere over here, this will work. Somewhere around here. We don't have to be too particular on it. We don't want it to be too far back, because we want we don't want our nose to be so heavy that it tips the car on the wheels. But this works. Somewhere around here. Hope we're doing well so far with this. Okay, so I have 2 holes that I put inside of my car for the axles to go through. They should be 10.5. Let me double check that. It should be 10.5 on the height because we laid it down. Yep, and it's a perfect cylinder, so that'll be correct. So let's highlight all 3. Let's highlight the solid and the 2 holes. Let's union group those in order to cut those holes, and there are the axle holes for our car. Okay, let's go ahead and let's actually just build our axles and our tires now. Grab another solid cylinder. Make sure you increase the sides all of the way. Okay, now these holes were 10.5, and the reason is because we're going to make these, I'll do these each separate, 10 in both directions. Okay, so this hole is going to be 1/2 of a millimeter larger than the axle. That'll give it a little bit of space to spin around in there. And looks like our axles are 45 millimeters tall. So either click here and type 45 or drag this top square up. Don't drag this. That's to raise it up. This is to change the size of the shape. So 45. All right, we need 2 of those. So let me duplicate those. So I got 2 axles. Okay, and now we need 4 tires. We're going to make 1. And then we're going to use that as our template. So drag 1 wheel over here. And the wheels are going to be 10 tall. Drag that down to 10 or type it in. Click here and the wheels are going to be, yep, 20. Looks like they're going to be 20 wide. So this should be 20 by 20, yep, by 10 tall. Perfect. All right. Let's duplicate this tire now. Ah! You see what I did there? I made a mistake. I drug it. Don't panic. Undo. All right, now let's drag it again. I accidentally grabbed one of the parts to resize it. Okay. In fact, I probably shouldn't have created the second axle. Let me show you why. What does it duplicate? All right, so I got this here now. Let's align this in all 3 directions. Now, one direction it should already be because it's on the work plane. See? Bottom one's already aligned. So let's center it both ways here. 1 and 2. So there's our axle centered inside of our tire. Let's group this guy. Okay, so now that's one piece. And when I said it, you know, I didn't need to create the second axle because here's why. I can duplicate it now and it has the tire attached to it. Like so. So what's going to end up happening, we're going to print it like this. We're going to print them upright. And then we're going to, once we take them off the printer, we lay this down, we stick it through the axle hole there. And then we're going to glue a tire on the other side with hot glue gun. So I need to make a hole inside of this, so it's 20 by 20. I need to make a hole that's also going to be 10.5 perfectly in the middle of this. That way when I slide this axle through, I can slide it'll look like a little donut on the other side of the axle and we'll hot glue it on. Okay, grab a hole. And this one, as I said, is going to be 10.5 both directions because the axle is 10.5. Beautiful. And it's already taller than the actual tire, so that's good. So let's put this right in the middle. Alignment. Again, since we drug it onto the work plane, they're both already on the bottom, aligned to the bottom because they're on the work plane. Center, center. Group this. Great. And now we're going to duplicate it. Bam. Cool. I have my tires, and I have my other side tires with the axle. That'll work. Beautiful. Okay, now if these, we're going to go back to working on our car. We got to put the part we're going to attach our balloon to. We need to put our initials on it, and we have to put a hole going through it to actually move this, to propel it. So if these are in your way, we can just move these off the work plane right now. Let me highlight all these, and I'll just drag them all the way up here. Cool. And now I can work on this, and I can come back later and pull those back onto the work plane. All right. Now we're going to create almost like a little, think of like a steam engine for a train, like a locomotive. How they have a little stack that lets the steam billow out. We're going to sort of do that, but it's going to allow us to attach our balloon to it. So watch this. This is pretty neat. If I drag this over and I put it on the work plane, that's fine. But if I were to drag it up on top of shapes I already have built, it'll put it on top. So it'll put it at that height. Now this is 20 tall. I just know that from building it. So the same thing would happen if I clicked here and I drug it up 20. It would be the same height as my car here. But it's a neat little shortcut that TinkerCAD created that we can just drag things and put them on top, and we can go from there. So our stack, we're going to call this part, is going to be 18 by 18. Let's go 18 by 18. And how tall do I want this to be? It looks like I don't have it written down. Let me eyeball this. Let's make this let's make it 7. 7 works. Okay. 18 by 18 by 7 tall. Cool. All right, let's now align this guy 2 directions. We're not going to align it vertically. We already want it sitting on top of here. But I'm going to align it this way. And I'm also going to slide this all the way to the back. So it's going to look like that. That'll work really well. Cool. Okay. And let's group it. Why not? Okay. Now I'm going to put another, a skinnier, a thinner cylinder, more like a cookie shape, on top of this one. So I'm going to drag this and I'm going to put it on top. There. So we're stacking it. Cool. All right, in this one, we're going to make 22 wide in both directions. 22 and 22. And this one needs to be 3 millimeters tall. So either drag this down or click and type 3. Great. Let me rethink how I wanted to do this. Okay, here's my predicament. Let me think about this for a second. All right, I know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to ungroup this. So walk with me on this. We're going to ungroup this here because I want this, which I'm going to call the stack, to be attached to this part centered. So follow me through this and this will make more sense in a second. So let's ungroup this. So we have just the top parts here. This might be a little tricky. I want to only highlight these 2 parts. I want to make sure I'm not highlighting my car. And I think the easiest way to do that is to look at it from this perspective, and we can highlight them both like that. You see how I just have both, right? If I highlight it if I look at this perspective, I try to go like this. Since I'm grabbing part of the car, highlighting over, it's going to grab everything. So let's look at it from the side. Let's grab it. Okay. Now here's why. I'm going to align this direction and this direction. And now I'm going to group those and I'm going to realign it on the car. This makes more sense. So let's do this. Let's align it this way. And let's also align it. Let me rotate it so you guys can see what's going on. And I'm also going to align it here. So now our little overhang of the stack is going to be lined up with the back of the car, like so. That looks better. My bad, but we fixed it. We're good. Good. Okay, if you need some help with that, rewind the video, ask your neighbor. If you're still struggling, let me know and I'll help you out. Highlight this. Group it. Ooh, we are so close to being done with this car already. Okay, this part here, though, is going to be the trickiest part of this whole assignment. We're going to grab right here what's called a torus. It's a ring, essentially. Think of it as like an inner tube. Okay, a donut, if you will. I'm going to drag this over. Now, this is going to be very, very important. So, first of all, we're going to increase the number of sides. Let's just make it as round as possible. We need to change the radius to 15. Let me rotate this and I'll zoom in on this so we can see what's happening when I change this. But we're going to change the radius. I'll just type it in to 15. There we go. Okay, so that's how wide it is. And then I'm going to change the tube to 3. It's at 2.5. Let's change it to 3. So the tube is basically like the thickness, how round it is this direction, and the radius is how wide overall, how large the whole donut is. This needs to be changed into a hole. Okay? Now here's going to be the tricky part. Let's see if we can get this right. I need to rotate this 90 degrees. So it looks like that. And what I'm going to do here is I need to make sure that I can see where this is lined up. So follow me on this. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to align it to the right here like this. Ultimately, it's going to go in the middle, but this will make sense again in a second. I need to align it here. We're going to move it again because I want to be able to see this ring needs to cut through this stack and through this axle here without popping through this axle hole. So it's going to be much easier for us to try to do that by using our arrow keys to the right. Okay, and I'm going to use my mouse to drag it up. Okay, so look at this. The reason that I aligned it from this perspective is so that way we can actually see where this is cutting through. Okay, if I go too far to the left here like that, when I group this, my hole is going to be cutting out the top. I want it to be going through, there you go. That's pretty perfect. I need to get through the top, through the stack, out the back, but not through this hole. This is going to be a little tricky. So use your arrow keys. You can raise this up and down. Okay, so somewhere like this will work. I mean, I can even move it back a touch. It's not going to really hurt anything. That's fine there too. Just as long as it's not peeking through the axle hole, and that it's going through the top, the stack, and then out the back without also peeking out here. We can check this again with transparency, but let's align this now, this hole in the middle of that stack. So highlight, align it this way. Okay, still looks good. I can double check to make sure. I should not see any of the hole here, right? Or out the back. That looks good. If I wanted to, I can do one more peek by clicking on our solid shape here and turning on transparent so I can see inside of it. Now remember, this is not a hole. It just makes it so you can see inside of your shapes. That looks good. Okay. Let me make it go back to turn off the transparency. And then let's group this thing. Union group. Bingo. So here's what's going to happen. We need to put one more thing on the front here, but let me explain. We're going to put these wheels through here, as I already discussed. I have balloons that I'm going to give you. You get to blow up your balloon. You can squeeze it or twist it, slide it on top of this little stack here, and then what's going to end up happening is the air is going to blow out the back, and it's going to hopefully, if all works out well, propel your car forward. Okay, I need a way to know who these belong to though. So let's grab our text. Let's put it on top here. Okay, that's not the direction I want, and that's okay. I can just simply rotate it 90. There we go. Okay, and you see when I put it on top of the car, you see how it's on that plane? Obviously this is too big, but I can resize this now and get it to be where I want it to be, and I can align it. But let's type under text over here. Type your initials or something short, easy, quick, that way it can fit on here. You don't want to be too many letters. My initials are MJH. Kind of hard to see there, but it's on there. There it is. And so your initials, if your name's short, some way to identify that this is yours. So when I pass them out, we know. And let's do this also. Let's move this thing back so it's a little more centered between the top of our cut here and the stack. So I'm just going to use my arrow keys, and that's probably good. Way too tall though, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring this thing down to 1 millimeter. Doesn't need to be really high. We're still going to be able to read it. 1 millimeter. And before we are done, let's align that. Let me zoom out so you can see a better perspective. let's align this way. This will just center my initials, because this is all one shape now. So we're aligning my initials in the middle of the whole car here. Cool. Group it. Make sure you group it. Okay, and then also, we're going to bring all of our wheels back. Please do me a humongous favor. This will save, well, don't do that. Let me hit undo. My bad. Let me grab a non-resizing part of this that I have highlighted. Ugh. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay. Please do me a favor. If you could put your wheels and your axles next to your car like this, and I don't want them to be jammed in here, but what I can do, if we move them around, let's say so it's sort of like this. Don't make it so tight that there's not space between it. But if you line them up like this, what happens is I can fit more of them on my printing bed, and it'll be a lot easier for me to get a whole bunch of them printed. Please leave some space between your tires and your car. This might have to print some supports which are going to overhang. So if you could get it to look very similar to this, not super tight like this, that would be very, very much appreciated. Okay. Something else to note on this, and this is something that I wish TinkerCAD did not do, but it's really important for you to know how to save this properly. If you've already started to save it, please pause for a second and watch this part of the video. If I have anything or multiple things selected, if I were to click on this little tire here, for instance, and I have this selected, and I go to export to save it, unfortunately what's going to happen is it's only going to save this tire. So we need to make sure that we click off of it so we have nothing selected at all. We can export now. Don't export. Rename. Hail. Car. Colors that are on the board today. Let's say that I want to do silver. Whatever colors you see on the board though. Now I'm going to export. I'm getting ahead of myself. Save this to your downloads, and then once again pull it into the Dropbox. But please be very, very careful or aware to know that you don't have one or two individual objects selected when you export. That we have our car somewhat set up like this. That way I can put multiple cars on the work plane. That would be wonderful. And then having nothing selected when you export. And that is your balloon car. So hopefully they'll be all printed for next class.